Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Today's Big Blend Radio Vacation Station Travel Show shines the spotlight on Seminole County, which is a non-theme park destination in Central Florida. You know, Nancy, how we always think about, the Epcot Center, Disneyland, and all of that. And you and I have hung out in Orlando quite a bit way back when, and it's really interesting to hear about Seminole County. And travel writer Kathleen-Walls recently visited the area. She had a wildlife adventure, historic adventures, ghosts possibly.
We like ghosts.
We like that. And so she's going to tell us all about her adventures, kayaking, ghost tours, limo cycle tours. That's a whole new thing.
That sounds interesting.
It has to do with pub crawling.
We like that too.
We like that. And then she had German food and, played around with an Papa band.
Well, that's fun.
I know. So this is exciting. Kathleen is a publisher and writer for American Roads and Global Highways. You can go to AmericanRoads.net. She's also a member of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. We call them IFTWA. And this is our second Friday show with IFTWA. We always feature different members of the organization, different travel writers, so we get to hear about these destinations all over the world. Now, Kathleen's articles and photographs have appeared in a number of magazines and online publications, and her in-print travel books include Georgia's Ghostly Getaways,
cool,
Finding Florida's Phantoms, Hosts with Ghosts, Wild About Florida, South Florida, and Wild About Florida, North Florida, and Wild About Florida, Central Florida. So she's wild about Florida.
Apparently.
Yeah, but she's from New Orleans. So, but also she's written a lot of different online travel guides and also a number of novels. So she's into fiction too.
Great.
Lots going on. Again, AmericanRoads.net.
Swampy stuff.
Swampy, yeah. Now, if you are a travel writer or a photographer or a destination management or marketing organization, check out ifwtwa.org, IFTWA, great resource. And really good to have you back on the show, Kathleen. How are you?
Hi, Lisa, Nancy. It's great to be back talking to you again. I'm doing fine.
Good.
Enjoying my travels.
I know you are all over. I've been following you on Twitter and Facebook and I think Instagram too. And I'm like, she's off and running. And you seem to always have the two main things that I see from, following you is history and nature. That seems to be the two main things for you, right?
That's my two loves, my favorites.
Oh,
and it's amazing how much I found in both of those when I went to Seminole County. I wasn't expecting that. I had lived in Orlando at one time, both before Disney and during Disney. And then Sanford and Seminole County was just almost like a little suburb. You didn't think of it as any place to go. And when I went there, it just blew me away with so much and such a variety of things to see and do when you're there.
I'm excited about that. I had nothing against theme parks. But it just is a different kind of thing. It gets busy. I remember getting twirled around quite a bit when we were in Orlando and after the Epcot Center. And, I just think sometimes it's really nice to go to an area where you can learn the local history. You can see gators in the wild, which is really cool, which I know you like to kayak like Nancy and I do. I do want to tell everybody that your article is up on nationalparktraveling.com. You can see Kathleen's photos and read her story and her experiences. And it's also, her article is going to be featured in the June-July issue of Parks and Travel magazine, which you can get at nationalparktraveling.com. But it's really cool that you went up there. And what's interesting is the nature part of it. You actually got into like a kayak that a lot of people may be a little bit worried about this. And is it Wekiva Island that you went on to go kayaking?
And it's so much fun because you see everything from a different perspective. And it really isn't that difficult. And for most beginners, you can usually get someone to go with you that knows what they're doing. But it really isn't that difficult. And when you're in a small stream like that, the worst that can happen is you turn over. And in most cases, you could just walk out and pull your boat behind you. But luckily, I didn't flip over. And there was just so much wildlife in there. It was just beautiful. And that was one of the things.
Gators? When you flip over, what about gators?
Oh, they're going to run away from you as fast as they can. They don't want to get involved with you any more than you want to be involved with them.
Now, what about snakes? Are you worried about snakes?
No, I'm not afraid of snakes. I grew up in New Orleans, and my brother caught snakes as a hobby. And so I've always been around them. And yes, the possibility of a water moccasin in Florida is the worst that you're going to get into. But again, most of the time they want to get away from you.
Exactly.
They're not looking at you. In fact, it's very difficult. I look for snakes to try and get pictures, and it's very difficult to see them or find them because as soon as they hear you coming, they're gone. Actually, snakes don't hear. They feel your vibration, but they definitely don't want to be around people.
We hung out with one the other day out here. We're in Tucson, and we were out mucking about in Saguaro National Park, and one of our little favorite ramadas, this little stone picnic area. It's like a little cabin, and you go in there, get some shade from the sun, and we're having our little, picnic time. And all of a sudden, this rattler came in. Like he wanted to come hang out with us, so we had to jump the window.
Not my favorite one. Not my favorite snake at all.
Really, is a rattler? Well, yeah,
they're beautiful.
Now, don't you get copperheads out in your way?
They are.
They
we
are
have
pretty.
in Florida. We have rattlers. Actually, when at the zoo, they have a beautiful reptile room where you can go in, and they have some absolutely beautiful snakes in there, very colorful, and of course, there's that glass between you, so you feel a lot safer.
I want to go back to Wekiwa State Island because there's also there's an island, but it's an island, and it's interesting because it seems like they're working really hard to maintain its natural setting, its actual biodiversity.
So. They have a LEED Platinum certification, which is very difficult to get. They do everything in their nature to keep the water and the land and preserve it because it is so beautiful. Where that is, Wekiwa there is spelled with a V. The state park, which is just across the border in Orange County, is spelled with a W. And it has to do with the old Native American word, which meant flowing water. And where I was kayaking, you go out from Wekiwa Island and you're paddling down, and it's absolutely gorgeous paddling through there. It's very natural. Lots and lots of wading birds, alligators. I didn't see any snakes, but there are lots of them in there, I'm sure. But the birds were the most beautiful things in there.
I know that's the thing about Florida is the birds. It's just
and they're so
amazing.
big. It's not like the little bitty tiny, which those are beautiful too. But these are the big wading birds. And you go out down the water, and as you're paddling, you come into this. It's kind of funny. There's a sign that says Wekiwa State Park. This is a paid fee entry. And there you are in the middle of the spring run, so obviously there's no place to drop your money. But you could, if you keep going, you could paddle all the way into the park, which is a beautiful park. But it is Orange County, not Seminole, which is the relationship between the two because they're almost, people don't realize whether they're in Orange County or Seminole County.
No.
Except that when you're in Seminole County, you're avoiding the typical traffic and T-shirt shops that you find when you're up, in the Disney part of Orlando.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So Wekiwa Island is just so great. And when you're in there, there's a limited amount of people can come in. There's a parking lot. And when the parking lot's full, that's it. I mean, there isn't any, you can't just park on the street and come in. So it's very natural, and it's not overly crowded. That's one of the things I liked about everything there. Nothing is overly crowded.
I think we need places like that now, because we need to have some breathing space. And, one thing I just want to go back to some of the wildlife. You said that there's bear, and I never even thought about bear in Central Florida, and also otter.
There are black bear in there, and there are otters. You don't see them as much as you see the wading birds, but if you're lucky, you could. There are even bobcats, probably. I didn't see any, but this is complete. Well, this is Florida the way it was. Before man came and before Disney came and all of that. There's interesting thing about that. While I was paddling, there was another kayaker, gentleman paddling, who was from the area, and he had been there, often since he was a young man. And we passed onto this big cement bridge, and it's kind of funny because there's no traffic and it's fenced off, and you can see it looks like a perfectly usable bridge, but nothing there, no traffic. And I asked him if he knew about it, and he was telling me that originally the developer that put the bridge in wanted to develop this whole area, which if it had happened, we would have lost tremendous assets there. And it didn't work out, but he did get the bridge in. And that bridge is sort of just standing there in the middle of all this wilderness with no road or anything going to it.
Wow. Wow. How
How weird.
interesting. Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Funny, the bridge to nowhere.
So also, you did that, and then you also went on an airboat ride. We did that out in the Everglades area, and it's so fast, but it's so interesting how it's above the water.
There are different experiences because the kayak, you're moving at your own speed. You see wildlife, you can stop. The airboat, you're going fairly fast. Our driver was very knowledgeable. He knew where the birds were. He knew where to take us. We saw quite a few alligators in there. We did get to see some eagles because that's one of the things that they're doing in this area is trying to bring the eagles back. And we did get to see pairs of eagles sitting up in a tree. And
that's nice.
Of course, they come to every year, they nest. And that's a real kind of a thrill because, it's not something you see every day.
And this is all Lake Jessup, right?
This is on Lake Jessup, and Lake Jessup is known for having more alligators than any place else in the world.
Okay, I'm going there.
Cool.
And they're just lying out in there. They're not too worried about you. I guess they're so used to it. What was really interesting with us, this was not too long after the hurricane, and there was still a lot of flooding. And he took us out. There's a place called Bird Island, and then past that, there's what used to be pasture land. I guess still is when the water recedes a bit. But the cows had waded right out in the water. They were, up to their waist packed out. Well, you say waist, hitting their bellies in the water, picking off the weeds and the seaweed that was growing up above the water. And they weren't worried about us either. We didn't get close. He was careful not to scare them or anything.
You were talking about eagles, and you were talking about having eagles in the American bald eagle. There's one thing, too. I know that you spent some time at the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Garden in Sanford, and one thing that we like to see is when zoos are taking this step of actually helping with and rescue. And I think that was some of the highlights that they helped with a rescued bald eagle, right?
Right. The eagle that they showed us is called Ray, and it's a female eagle, spelled R-A-E rather than the male, but the man who found her was Ray. That's how they named her Ray. And they were showing her, and the reason that they have her, and, because eagles, you can't just go out and catch one. And they have her because she was injured as a very young fledgling when she probably fell out of a nest. And they say that there's rivalry among baby birds, that it's possible one of her siblings just threw her off the nest. Doesn't sound nice, but that's nature. And so she's been very used to people. Yeah. And she's a beautiful bird, but she had a deformity in her wing where it was broken. And she would not have ever been able to survive in the wild, so that's why they do have them. Another case of that, the bear siblings that they have there. They have been captured by these loggers, and they were keeping them as so-called pets, chained up, terrible conditions. And by the time that the authorities found them, the cubs were, very used to people, and they couldn't have been returned to the wild. So now they've built a beautiful new bear habitat out there for them.
Oh.
And
so that's a good story.
It's a very responsible zoo. It is.
That's really great to hear. And now, so now the downtown thing. So you had the big nature, your nature fix, which is, it sounds amazing to me. It sounds like I could go spend so much time with the birds and the gators. I'm ready. But now let's talk about Sanford, the historical downtown, because I think that's another thing is we love to find places where, like you're saying, where it hasn't become, the billboard highway, and where it has a sense of place, where you still feel like the old Florida, like you're saying, which is, that's magic when you can find that.
I kind of got to see a lot of that because I saw that, first off, we saw it after dark with the ghost tour. And the ghost tour was not from the real paranormal point
Okay.
excuse me, mostly. It was from the History Point, and our guide that took us through there, he's very knowledgeable. He knows Sanford really well, lives there, and in fact, he owns a homebrew shop himself. So he knew these stories, and we walked around after dark, and it's hard to get pictures of that because you don't really see anything, but the stories kind of give you a lot of the history of it. And we not only got history from that, the following day we were at lunch, and this lady who is the director in Goldsboro, which is a place I had never even heard of, came in, and she began talking to us about Goldsboro. And Goldsboro was the second African-American community founded in Florida City. And it was just taken away from them. They had a very thriving little city after emancipation, and because of their location where they stood, the city of Sanford wasn't able to expand. They were kind of blocking their way, them and another little community. So the mayor, Forrest Lake, decided, well, let's get rid of them. Actually, he had gone into the state senate at that point. So they just took away the city's charter and annexed it. But they have preserved their history. And one lady in particular there, Frances Oliver, Mrs. Oliver has devoted a lot of time to creating the Historical Museum, which has preserved all of this history. And there's things that you would never, I had never heard of Goldsboro before. And you go there and you're seeing so much of this community that's sort of just been swallowed up, and it's kind of a shame, but yet they've kept the heritage alive.
I see that
there's ghosts.
I know that there's the Page Jackson Cemetery, and I'm like, I want to go.
Well, I would like to get into that more than we did. It's still the way Page Jackson began, this well-to-do white man gave the African-American people this plot of land to be able to bury on, but because it was a free cemetery, there were no records kept. So just recently, in fact, since I talked to you last or wrote to you, I discovered the man who was Muhammad Ali's corner man, I guess you would call him, is buried there.
Wow.
And his name is Drew DeBundy Brown. And they discovered his grave just by accident. It was engraved on there. But he's the one that wrote the story about float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, those kind of little jots that he used to throw out. And that's sort of a work in progress, because volunteers are currently working on that, trying to clear it and find who's buried there and who isn't.
Wow, this is interesting. And I think it's when we think about Florida's history, like St. Augustine being, the nation's America's first city. And then, it goes from there. How, the history of Florida is just, there's so much, and there are a lot of ghost stories that come out of there. But so that's something you got to do was go on a ghost tour. And I think that is so much fun to go, because you start to learn about the people of an area.
So much of the stories, not only the ghost, the background behind the ghost story. One of the really cute stories, the zoo had originally started downtown in, I believe, the original city hall. And he was telling us that it began because someone had two monkeys that they couldn't keep, and they gave them to the city, like, let's get rid of these guys. And they had them there. And when they finally got the land for the zoo and moved them there was one that they couldn't catch for some reason. He was very difficult to catch. And the story goes that there's a ghost in there of this monkey. And one lady that the tour operator knew worked there, and she was there after dark one night, and they have an automatic system that turns the lights off in the halls at a certain time. And she had been in her office, where she puts her office light and goes to go out, and she hears this growling noise and like this thing rushing past her. And she got out of there very, very fast.
No way. That's like us and the snake, man. Run, Forrest, run. There's a lot of that happens with us. But so that is, that's the thing. I think you start to get that charm, that feeling of the place, unless you get visited by, a little paranormal, visitor. But the other part too, what is up with this limo cycle tour? So this is like because we've seen something like that here.
That's a great way to do that, because, you know, if you want to have a few drinks and you don't want to be driving, which incidentally, Sanford is wonderful if you don't want to drive. They do have, not only do they have this, they have a free trolley tour downtown, and parking is free. I mean, compared to Orlando parking, and you come down here and it's beautiful. There's parking all over the place. Pretty much anywhere you go, you can just pull in and park. And you can park and take the free trolley, or if you wanted to do a pub crawl, the pub thing does it. They do like private tours. You get a group of people, maybe 8 or 10 people, friends together, and you rent the trolley. And then you could go from one pub, and they have so many breweries down there. I mean, it's like almost every block has got a couple of breweries when you're in the downtown historic section. So you can go from brewery to brewery, and each of the breweries is kind of competing with in a different way. They'll have gardens, and some will have bands. They'll have all sorts of really different entertainment going on down there. So you can go around from that.
The limo cycle, because I think Nancy and I have seen one, and I just didn't know what to call it. Here in Tucson,
have you ever been on one?
There was a sky by the Sky Bar where everybody was sitting on it and pedaling or something, but it looked almost like a
like a boat. But you're pedaling like an electric bike, but the driver has an electric motor, which sort of, you know, if you kind of get lazy and don't pedal real hard, it kind of helps take over the pedaling a little bit.
Pedal for your beer.
You do pedal. And it's a great way, because, you know, you don't want to be driving if you're drinking. And
no, you don't.
So you can go from one brewery to the other, or you can go to, there's so many hot spots when you're down there at night, when you're standing on the street, and it's a safe, very feeling. I mean, you can walk from one place to the other too, but you can hear the music coming. I was walking along there, and we could hear this band, and it was coming from one of the breweries. And as you walk, it's just beautiful. And then the food places, the Willow Tree Cafe has a fantastic, there's a 2-man German band, and it's more than just a band. He gets out there and sort of interacts with the audience, invites people up to come with him and play the saw. And there's the Alpine horn, which is kind of funny. You know, the one you see on the commercials, a big long Alpine horn.
Yeah.
And he gets up there, and he starts like he's trying to blow it. Right. And it's not doing anything. And he walks around, and he's looking and making a big show of it. Of course, he's dressed in the German costume, the lederhose and everything. And he reaches down into it, and he pulls up this chicken out of it. I mean, obviously not real chicken, or like stuffed chicken, rubber chicken. And then he goes back and plays it. But it's just, you know, it's just a little more than you really expect. And then there's another place down there, which is an antique shop in the daytime. That's the not Altamont Mall, the Imperial. And during the day, it's an antique shop, and they have these imported antiques you can go in. And then at 5 o'clock, it turns into a lounge, and there's this beautiful antique bar in there. And
cool.
That's different.
That is different. I like that idea where you know, it's like you're different by day and night. The other thing too, what's going on with these marshmallows? Apparently you got a good full of marshmallows.
Yes, I got to make my own. Well, not make them from scratch, but decorate the raw marshmallows. The gentleman that started that, he wanted to get his wife something unusual that she didn't have for Christmas, and he was trying to think of what. He was listening to a public radio broadcast one day, and he hears him talking about candy is really not so bad for you because you don't eat as much as if it were a piece of pie or cake. He said, candy, marshmallows. He goes out and he buys her a candy thermometer, and they begin making marshmallows. And it's a worldwide business. They export marshmallows all around. They make these combinations, bourbon marshmallows, really unusual, strange marshmallows with different vanilla and infusion. And what we got to do, we got just a pan of the plain marshmallow and some powdered sugar and different types of chocolate chips and little colored particles that we could put on the marshmallows. And we got to go decorate and cut our own marshmallows. And that was fun. Of course, we got to eat them as we were doing it. Take the ones home we had.
I like that.
Right. Oh, you would love it. And the funny thing about it is he's never done any advertising. It's all word of mouth. And they're now, I believe, the biggest export of marshmallows anywhere. They send them all over the world.
Wow. Man, who knew? Who knew about the Marshmallow Man? That's what we're going to call him.
That was the thing about all of Seminole County. I never knew anything like that was down there. And it's just unbelievable what you find when you get into there.
I'm on the Visitor Bureau website now, doorlandonorth.com. People can check that out too to plan, because it's cool. I'm looking at their website. There's a lot to do there, and I remember hearing about Lake Mary, and that's the thing too. Getting there,
showboat.
There's a showboat,
which is really a showboat, right? You can go out at night on the Barbara Lee, and it's a regular, like a paddle wheel steamboat that goes out into the lake, into the St. Johns River, and into the Lake Monroe is actually what's there. And you have dining and dancing, and it's just really, and of course, nice music with the dancing. And it's just and if you want, you can walk out on the deck and look. You could do it in the daytime. We did it at night, so you really don't see much of the shoreline, but just see the lights and things as you're going through.
Nice.
Very nice. Well, I know that
Sounds like a lot of fun.
We're going to be going. We're going to Natchitoches, Louisiana. You know where that is. And and then up Natchez Trace to and then we're going to go to Kentucky, and then we may go down through Florida and Alabama and Georgia on our way back home. We're going to do a 2-month trip.
Well, if you you have to catch Sanford in all of Seminole County.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you've got gators, you've got marshmallows, you've got limo cycling tours, you've got ghosts. I mean, what more could anybody want?
What more could you want? Right. It has everything.
I want to see otters. That's so cute. I want to see an otter in the wild.
You probably have to get out there in a kayak and sort of really cruise, maybe early in the morning. I bet some of the guides could tell you when your best time to see them, because they're out there all the time and they know.
I have seen otters in the wild. Yeah, I was just thinking they were in the ocean. That was over in the sea otters. I've seen sea otters, but I don't think I've ever seen a freshwater otter in the wild. I don't think so. Now it's time. We've seen beavers out here in the desert, believe it or not, but
we've got so much wildlife in Florida, so you never know what you're going to see. The thing I've always wanted to see is a Florida panther in the wild.
Yeah. And I have go to the Everglades, and that's
right. Big Cypress Swamp, and I have gone there and tried, but have not seen them. I've seen a lot of other wildlife, but
have you been to Okefenokee Swamp?
Yes, I have. It's been a while, but I've been there. They had a terrible fire.
Yeah.
Actually, from my house, and I'm probably 80 miles from them. We were getting drifts of the ashes actually falling on my car from the wildfire that was there this past summer. So I haven't been back there since then.
Yeah.
It was pretty devastating.
I hope we've had fires all over the country, and I hope, we go through a calm summer this year. I really do. And that's the thing, is to support places like that as best we can. I wanted to talk to you about your travel writing. When you're writing, because every time I've talked with you, somehow you're getting yourself in a kayak. When you write,
doing that in St. Augustine not too long ago too. A couple
Oh, really
ago.
Cool. Oh, cool. You went to St. Augustine. Beautiful. We featured that up in.
Well, I'm sort of midway between St. Augustine and Jacksonville. So for my, when I want to get into a city, that's my. And usually St. Augustine. Of course, Jacksonville has a lot to offer too. But those are my two go-to places when I'm just, kind of cruising around for the day or something.
Nice. I was going to ask, when you travel and you're on a press trip, I know you're always off and running somewhere or paddling. Do you write your notes? Do you start to write your story while you're there? How do you keep track of what you're doing?
I tape everything, And then when I come home, I have a little tape recorder that I can download onto my computer. I download it right on the computer. And then when I'm going to write, because it might be months later that I'm writing about the place. And I like to pick them apart and write a lot more detailed pieces than just a big overall. So I'll go back and I'll go picking in there and listen to the tape again to refresh my memory.
And then do the photos help as well?
Oh, yes. Sometimes I'll be skimming through the photos and I'll say, oh, I remember that. And I wasn't even thinking about it, but seeing it, and you remember just what so-and-so said and where you were and what you were doing. And it really, I take a lot of photos.
And then the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, you know, we're all like happy and lucky, you know, and our audience love it too, because you can hear different stories and how travel, because, you know,
and we share, you don't see rivalry between travel writers like you do. I started off, well, I didn't start originally, but at one time I worked as a reporter. And sometimes some of those guys can get really nasty and, you know, really physically try and push you out the way to beat you to a story and things.
Right.
But you don't see that, Trevor. And IFWA is so good because we share so much there. The people are really good about sharing things. If you have a question about something, anything you might think of, what should I be doing about this? You can put up and somebody will answer you. If, hey, are you going to this press trip? Somebody will answer, yeah, I'm going to be at that one. And that way you get to meet the people and not just just a name or just a person you're emailing with and contacting online. You actually get to meet them in person. So that's always fun. And of course, the press trips are really great. The newest ones, the next one, which I've been lucky enough to get picked for, is the one going to the Outer Banks. So I'm going there next.
Oh, the Outer Banks. That's very nice. And that's well, you're going in the summer, so that's good. I was going to say, otherwise it's mighty cold.
Yeah, no, it's going to be in the summer.
So now that's cool. So you do a lot of travel through that, and it's interesting going from the reporter background and that you also do fiction, and then here you are doing travel writing. What is your favorite thing about it? What makes you tick? Is it the new destinations? Is it the sharing of the story? What is it for you that keeps you like, I love
the
this?
new destination, someplace that I haven't been, finding new things. And I really, really love when I go someplace like Sanford that you don't expect this. If you go into a big, New York City or Orlando, you kind of know what you're looking for. But you go into little small places, sometimes you find the most interesting things that you had no idea were there. For me, that's the most fun.
Yeah,
exploring.
Looking at the little things. That's the thing for me. I think,
and it's always like it's like when you're in a national park or something, and you're walking down the trail, and you're getting tired, but you just want to go and see what's around that next bend. And then you see another bend.
It's a big alligator with a snake.
But you always just want to see what's around that little next bend. And same thing with travel writing. I think it's, the next thing around here.
The next adventure.
There's so much to see and do.
I know.
You can't run out.
I know. And I'm reading this on your article on, Seminole-County, and I'm like, okay, we got to get out there because you've got all these parks and the nature part and the history part. Obviously, we want to play with, the mushroom. I mean, not the mushrooms, the marshmallows. I don't know. No, I'm just reading here. No, I'm reading about her German food that she was eating and had rich brown and mushroom sauce.
You will definitely love the German food. As much for the entertainment and the atmosphere. And there was a ghost story to it, too. The ghost tour took us right by there, and the bartender was telling us about, I don't remember exactly what happened, but he was telling us about this paranormal thing that happened when he was at the bar, and he kept thinking that it was somebody else doing it, and there wasn't anybody else there. And the buildings is kind of old. Some of the buildings in Sanford are old because, originally Sanford was the celery city. That was their big thing. They grew celery.
Oh, wow.
They were the biggest celery producer in the country. And that's why so many, after the Civil War and everything in the early 1900s, a lot of African Americans worked as pickers, and that's how Goldsboro, part of the people that worked there, lived in Goldsboro. And this Forrest Lake, who was the mayor of Sanford and then went on into the Senate, he later got into a lot of trouble about corruption and stuff, which happens in politics.
No kidding.
But anyway, Sanford couldn't expand, and that was the whole reason. It really wasn't a racial thing. It was just, you're standing in my way, so I'm going to wipe you out. But
well, that sounds very typical, like on many things.
People, yeah.
Don't get me started. We won't be talking politics or any of that right now, because that will be a 3-hour show and we would only be starting.
And we'd all get ourselves in trouble, I'm sure.
That's right. That's right. We don't want to. We want to keep traveling and having fun.
We want to keep traveling, right.
Showing people these amazing places. Kathleen, always such a pleasure chatting with you. So much fun, and I love your zest for life and getting out there and paddling with gators and going on airboats and playing with the Papa band.
St. Augustine, I'll set you up with Barbara, who's the CBB person there, and we'll all go kayak. She does paddleboarding. She's braver than I am.
Oh, I can't do that. I drink too many margaritas for paddleboarding.
Yeah. And Barbara's very good at it, but she's been kayaking for years and just sort of graduated onto that. Being on the paddleboat, she can see ahead where I couldn't see being down lower.
Yeah.
So she could say, there's something over there, or there's this over there. And
well, I'll be the one with the wing bands on, so that when I do capsize, I can float. And, because we go in circles when it has anything to do with me. I managed to go in circles. Nancy tries to straighten us out. And it'll be an episode. Let's put it that way.
It'll be fun.
But we'll let you know when we come out that way. That would be so much fun, to get out there.
Have you ever flipped?
Have we ever? No, but it was close. It was close that one time in Louisiana. I kept going in circles because I sat, and it was
a good place to flip. Some of those bayous are pretty deep.
And there was like a snake thing happening out there too.
There definitely was a water snake.
There was a water snake, and I panicked. And Nancy just sat in her kayak laughing away, and I'm going in circles, and I freaked out, and I forgot my hat, so I had this towel over my head, and there I was in this kayak going in circles, yelling at Nancy, "You're going the wrong way." And she's like, "You can't go in any direction anyway. Look at you." And people were sitting at their little cabins watching, and I'm going in circles, freaking out. There's a snake. And she just sat laughing. She didn't care. She was like, "Well, you're funny." So
we
just preparing.
Canoe over one time, not too far away from a very large alligator. But canoes are harder than kayaks.
Yeah, they're not as
You
comfy.
can flip. You can flip on those.
Canoe's easy to flip.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to deliberately flip a kayak, but someplace like Alexander Springs, after I took everything out of it and just be in the kayak and see what would happen. You see these guys do it where they flip over and come right back up, and I'm not sure I would. I somehow hesitate to think that would be the way it would work for me. I'd probably get down there and wouldn't come up, but
no,
it would be.
Just go down a waterfall. That'll help.
The waterfall thing is crazy.
I want to try that.
There's an IMAX movie, and I can't remember the name, and I wish I did.
Nile.
These kayakers did the Nile.
Oh.
They kayaked the entire Nile River, and I mean, we're talking some crocodiles in there, but these waterfalls, and I mean, it was insane. And then they were in territories where they were at war, so they were in places they were getting shot at. So anyway, check.
I haven't been quite that adventurous.
I'm not that
adventurous. I did see a crocodile one time in Everglades.
Really?
I could have got to see 2 crocodiles in the same day. And there's only about 1,000 of them in the United States. They're all right there in that very point in the Everglades.
Mm-hmm. Right by the
Flamingo
Visitor Center area.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were going down there to get on. We were going to rent a canoe, I think, at that time. And this was my ex-husband, and he had his camera. That was back in the days of
That's what you do with them. You dump them out with the crocodiles.
Well, that was a thought. I should have done that. Didn't think of that. But anyway, he had his set back a certain way that he couldn't take a good picture in sunlight. It was set to be, when he got way out in the swamp out there. So I'm taking it with mine, and he kept saying, "Get closer, get." No, I'm not getting any closer. But I did get a reasonably decent picture of one. And then later on, when we got on the photo, we saw another one. You can tell the difference by the teeth.
Yeah, and the nose, the way they are. I mean, we're used to crocodiles from Africa, from living in South Africa and Kenya, and they can move. They can move. Hippos, hippos and crocodiles. Yeah. Don't be mistaken, people out there, or don't mistake any of them out there, because they will get you if you're in their way. But they don't mean harm, but it's just the way the wild is, you know.
They need a snack, and a human's just as good as anything else.
Yeah, you've got to just watch what you do. Everyone, Kathleen's website is AmericanRoads.net. And watch for her article in the June-July issue of Parks and Travel magazine. You can read her article now, though, if you go to nationalparktraveling.com and see her pictures there. And you'll see a gator in there from her kayaking adventures and all kinds of good stuff. Some Papa band music. And
paddle with some teeth in it.
Yeah. So a paddle with some teeth, yeah. But also everybody... And the marshmallows. Don't forget the marshmallows. Everybody needs a good marshmallow in their life. And then for the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, we air an interview with a travel writer through IFTWA every second Friday. And again, you can keep up with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association and join, whether you're a travel writer, a photographer, a wine writer. You could be a blogger, you could be an author, or you are on the other side and the industry side. So go to IFWTWA.org. And we're going to play a little music for you, Kathleen. And I think it goes well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to play a song called Silver Ghost, because of all the ghost stories that you came back with.
Ghost is always good.
Well, this is actually a fish, and it's from a musician, James Saunders. He's from South Africa, just outside Cape Town, in a place called Hermanus. And he loves to fish and go out. He's into, the water. And I figured, well, we got to have a water song, because he likes the kayaking, and, there's fish under there. And so everyone, JamesSaundersMusician.com is his website. And we're going to play Silver Ghost. But don't forget, everyone, you can keep up with us. Big Blend Radio airs Friday and Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. The whole schedule is up on bigblendradio.com, and you can connect to listen live or on demand. Check that out. So bigblendradio.com. But thanks so much, Kathleen. You take care.
And thank you. I have enjoyed it very much.
We have too. We have too. And we'll see you with the Gators. Here it is, everybody. Silver Ghost.
with my dreams.